Let's take a look at a common MapReduce function here. And what I want to do is I want to get some sales numbers for our sales table. So I'll zoom on in here and let's take a look. And remember, in our document, we have all kinds of information rolled up in items. And in items, we have vendor information as well as SKU information, price, quantity, and so on. So these are the values that I will be working with. So the first thing I want to do is I want to map the data. And I want the items here, and I have a bit of a problem. If I use just an item selection, as I've done, it's going to return an array, or the items array, from the document. Can't really use that, but check this out. If I map over each item, and I ask for the item SKU, let's say, and maybe the item price, what I'm going to get back, well, not very usable. I'll get an object back with price and SKU keys, but each one of the values is an array. Not terribly useful. So instead of doing a selector here, that I'm just asking for items, I'm going to use concat-map. And concat-map, as you recall, is going to map and concatenate that items array, and it's going to return it as if it was its own document. That's exactly what I want. And then I can use a map function on top of that. And I will isolate the SKU, the price, and the quantity. In addition, I can do some calculations in line here. I can specify that the line total is going to be the item price, and then I can use .mul, which is multiplied, and I'm going to multiply the quantity. But I can also use add, or I can use divide, or so on. You get the idea. But I'm going to multiply this by the item quantity, and there you go. That is as I would expect. This is great, because now that I've mapped this, I can then do some roll-ups. But I want to do a little bit more here. I want to group all of this by SKU, and in addition, I'm going to limit it to 1,000 documents so I don't slow everything down. Okay, well, take a look at what I get back. This is, again, a grouped stream because I'm using the group keyword. I'm grouping by album, and my reduction is an object. So I have all these numbers in there that I can then further reduce. And at this point, I should tell you that the example that you're about to see uses the long form reduction. In other words, I'm going to write it all by hand. But RethinkDB ships with convenience reduction functions like count and sum, average, so on, that you can use just right in line. Just drop it on the end of a grouped stream, like group, and it'll do the reduction. But for this example, I'm going to use reduce, and I'm going to write it all out by hand. So reduce takes a callback with a left and a right argument. As mentioned before, this is a sequential reduction. So we're going to take left values and do something with them as well as right. All right. So let's play with our mapping above. And for the SKU, I want to return that value. For the total, I am going to add the total from the left sequence to the right sequence. This is just a simple addition. And assuming I get my brackets right, running this, there it is. We have a reduction. So we have a group, which is album 10, and then we have our total, which is 1430. Now, if I want to read this as dollars, I can. I can divide it by 100, but look at that. Remember I said once before that we have numbers stored as doubles. So if you're worried about anything with floating points, just deal with integers, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm dealing with pennies. Okay, so we have some interesting numbers coming down. Now let's work with them a little bit more. My next step here is to ungroup that grouping, and I want to map the results now. I want to show the SKU, but I also want to show a count of sales as well as total sales, and I want those labels to make sense. So I'll put SKU, and I'll put sales total, and whoops, there's no total in the object. And I love this. The reason I'm showing this to you is that this is a great error response. Basically saying, I tried to find this column in this object and it wasn't there. And that's because I needed to do reduction and then total. There we go. That looks right. All right, well, let's add a sales count to our map function way above, and that's just going to be a 1. And then down below here, I'm going to do a reduction on that sales count. I'll add the left sequence to the right to come up with a count total. Although what I really should be doing is adding the quantity, but oh well, this isn't a course in analytics, thank goodness. The whole point of me showing you this is just to show how I was able to chain things together and eventually work and tease the result that I wanted. By shaping the data, running some mapping, doing a reduction, ungrouping, and then mapping again. That is the essence of what it's like to work with RethinkDB. You can pretty much intuit the query that you want to write just by thinking about it and thinking, oh, okay, if I tweak the data here, add this function here, and do this other thing over here, eventually you'll get the data that you want.